Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Python programming. In this video we will be covering the topic of iterators. Now an iterator in Python is an object that contains a countable number of values, or it's a larger object that contains a countable number of sub-objects. An iterator is an object that can be iterated upon, and what that means is we can traverse from each value and we can manipulate or perform certain functions or operations and tasks using each of the sub-objects or values within this larger collection called iterator. Now, when we're looking at it technically, an iterator is an object which implements the iterator protocol in Python, which consists of the methods iter and the method next. So to begin with, let's look at a simple iterator. We're going to see the example of a list where we're going to traverse through the objects of a list using the for loop. So we have objects 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to print each of these values one by one, as you can see here. Similarly, we can also do the same thing for another iterable known as the string, where we can go character by character, again using the for loop, as you can see here. Another example of an iterable in Python is the dictionary. So let's say I have a dictionary where I have two values, two key value pairs, key x, which contains the value 1, and key y, which corresponds to the value 2. Now when I'm going to do a for loop through this, by default, I will be traversing through the keys x and y, as you can see over here. And of course, the other types of iterables in Python are like sets and tuples as well. Alright, now let's look at what this iterating protocol is in Python. So first of all, we take an iterable. It's an object that contains, it's a collection of objects that contain sub-objects. And when we use the iter function, it creates an iterator out of it. So we can, one by one, we can traverse through each of the objects, and we can manipulate each of the objects that is contained in this. And anytime we want to move to the next object, we use the next function. And when we have finally completed all of the, or we've manipulated or traversed through each of the sub-objects, we encounter the stop iteration exception, which tells us, okay, there are no more objects to be manipulated or iterated upon. So as an example, I will create a list where I will store the values, some simple values, integers 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 5. Okay. I'm going to create an iterator out of this where I will use the iter function. And I'm going to say this is, let's say this is called my iter. Okay. And I'm going to use the iter function as I had mentioned, and I'm going to pass my list in this. Now if you see what is my iter, it should be a list iterator at a particular memory location. Now let's use the next function to keep going through whatever is there in this. So of course the first object should be 1, as you can see. Now when I look at the next, it should be 3, then I should get 4, and now I should get 5 as I use the next successively. Now since I've reached the last of my objects in this collection, now the next time I use this next function, I should get a stop iteration exception that is raised, as you can see here. So this is the basic iteration protocol in Python. Now you might have already gone through the for loop video, and in that I have spoken in quite a bit of detail as to how a for loop performs this this iterator protocol, and how it creates an iterable object out of, say, a list or a tuple, and how it internally performs the next function, and it breaks out of the for loop once it encounters the stop iteration exception. So for loops are like, they're very, very similar to your standard iterator, and they use pretty much the same protocol for its functioning. Now let's do a basic comparison of what is a basic comparison between a generator and an iterator in Python. So in generator, we use a function. We define it using the def keyword, and we define it under one function to create a generator. Whereas in the case of iterators, we use two separate functions, the iter function and the next function. The generator makes use of the yield keyword, whereas the Python iterator does not. In generators, we save the states of the local variables each time we use the yield keyword, and we pause the loop temporarily. Whereas in iterators, we do not make use of any local variables. All we need is an iterable like a list to iterate upon. We may use any number of yield statements in generators, and we do not use yield statements in iterators. Generators are not memory efficient, whereas iterators are very memory efficient. So this is like basic comparison between generators and iterators. So this was it for our introduction into iterators in Python. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something from this video. And please don't forget to subscribe and like this video on our channel, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.